Welcome back to the channel. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Modesitt Jr.'s Scepters, which is book 3 of the Korean Chronicles, and it wraps up the first trilogy of the Korean Chronicles. But before we get into it, and there's a lot of it, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when new videos come on up. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you guys, and I always respond. Um, so, and help spread the word. It's free for you and it helps me out. So, um, yeah, let's get into this book. Looking at the cover, we see Aloysius and Wendra on the cover, and you're thinking, oh, okay, now it's going to be husband and wife kicking some ass, right? But for most of it, it really isn't. Yes, she has to fight the talent beasts, the pterodons, and the wild sand oxes and the black sand cats that come around, just like Aloysius does on the stead. But most of the book has Aloysius being back in the Northern Guard, and he basically ends up becoming a colonel, and that's what the Lord Protector basically holds over him. I'll make you a colonel. You'll get pay. You do this mission for me, and you're good to go. Now, Wendra is like almost ready to give birth, and Lucius doesn't have to go. Like there would be no punishment if he didn't, but he kind of figures I don't have any choice with everything that's going on and what I know. I, I gotta do it. So he does, and his mom's not happy. Wendra and Royalt both know his grandfather Royalt. They both know you got to do what you got to do, and they understand that more than his mom. So he joins the Northern Guard, and his assignment is to put down a rebellion in Hayalt, which is being led by a prophet who is preaching the return of the Duarchies, which is basically what the ruling class was before the Cataclysm. The Ifrits or the Ephrains, whatever you want to call them, because they get termed as both in here. The Ifrits they call themselves Ephrains. Halucius calls them Ifrits. You can take your pick on which one you want. So he's trying to get a lay of the land here and to see what is going on with Hjelt and how to take care of this rebellion. And even before they're really close to this, I mean, they hear like scouts don't return. You send out a scout, and they don't come back, and they've lost a lot of scouts that way. So he's trying to figure out, okay, what do I do here? And even before they're close to the city, or it's really more of a town, they get attacked, and they keep coming. They don't retreat. The only thing that seems to kill them is a headshot, vis-a-vis Walking Dead kind of. They're not zombies, but they might as well be. They can't shoot. They're poor shots. But they just keep coming until they fall, and until they're all dead. They don't retreat. And Lucius is just like this. This can't keep going like this because I'm not doing the Lord Protector any favors. You see, he's not going to be looked at favorably after this. And he doesn't want to become known as the Butcher of Hyalt. So, what can he do? Every time that he encounters a battle, it's basically having to fight until that company is dead, until they're all wiped out. And it even gets to the point where it's old men and boys. And, it's the prophet is basically holding these people to hit the belief. I think part of it is that they want to believe to begin with, but at the same time, there's that purpleness in their life thread, and they're basically being held. And it's some go once the prophet is dead, because Lucius does kill the prophet. There are people who slit their throats, cut their wrists, shoot themselves. They don't they're like that hardcore for the return of the Duarchies, that they think is all is lost. The world's going to die, because the Duarchies had all this, these great buildings and, music and architecture and, all this beautiful stuff. But what they don't realize is that the Efrans who want to come back, they they drain the world's life of that, and it's to the point where even the Sorors are weak. If there's even more than one, we only really know of one at this point. Um, so they finally make it to the town, and all that's left are just some old men and women. And Lucius has to go through each one to figure out, okay, who can help rebuild this town, um, which is not an easy task. And just by asking some questions, he can figure out who needs to sort of be taken away because they're not going to be good for the rebuilding of the town, and which ones can stay that will help. Um, then he gets orders that he's got to go and help defend Southgate. The regent of the Matriol, for the Matrites, they have their crystal throwers back. They got two of them now. Now this is done through Marshal Frinkle. The Lord Protector has nothing to do with this. He doesn't even know that this this order was issued until after it was already sent out, and Lucius is is going, um, to there, and he has to devise plans on how to take out the crystal throwers. He knows he's the only one that can do that because it's a talent. It's basically it's sort of like a talent machine. It can only be done. It's being powered by crystals, and he he gets to the point where he realizes he knows what he can do. He has to wait, um, and once the machine is powered up, then he can figure out what he needs to do. Until then, he can't do anything. Um, so he tries to blow it up. That doesn't really work. Um, he then he's trying to figure out with the threads. Can I, sort of unwind this and shut it down? That doesn't work. They're like, okay, maybe spinning these threads forward faster might help. And as he's pulling using his talent sense on these nodes, and he's pulling and pulling and pulling, the the bolt thrower basically blows up and takes out a whole bunch of matrites. So now one's taken down, and he's on his way to the second one, and he's given encouragement to try to capture the other one. Is there a way that you can capture it? It's like, gee, don't worry about me saving myself and how many of your people so far. You want, what else do you want? But he tries and can figure out no way of basically disabling it, and being the crystals, just he can't work with those, so he can't disable it. The only thing that he can do is basically blow it up. So he does that, and boom, the Matrites basically are done at that point. All they're going to do is really flee. But Lucius takes a beating as well, and it takes him a while to heal. And once he heals, then he goes to the Lord Protector. The squads get commendations from him, which isn't really done, let alone 3 squads. It's rare that you get 1 squad, let alone 3. Um, so there's that, and then he has a private dinner in the Lord Protector's bedchambers. So it's him, the Lord Protector, and the Lord Protector's wife, and their baby. They did have a child, and that's partly because of Lucius and taking out Enal in the second book. Um, so the Lord Protector basically says, look, you've done everything I've asked you to, but the Northern Guard isn't what it needs to be. So I'm going to make you colonel, and you will relieve Colonel Wesleyan of his post. He can get stipended and all that, but you're going to take over the control of the Northern Guard and help build it back up, because it's basically been gutted, which is what Wesleyan's been doing, and the Ifrits backing him, who are then backed by the Matrites. The region of the Matrial is basically working with the Ifrits to weaken the Northern Guard so the Iron Valleys become weak, so they can be conquered easily. And the Ifrits or the Ephrains don't want a peace. They want this fight to keep going, because it takes attention off of them and what they're doing. The golds that they're diverting from the Northern Guard over to themselves and to Colonel Wesleyan, which is why the council had in the first book couldn't keep in Legacies, they couldn't keep the guard going without having to join Lanacrona. So Alucius says, well, I got some ideas of my own, though, that I want to do. He's like, we need to move the headquarters out of Dekron. We need to move it away from the traders, because the traders are controlling everything. It needs to go to Iron Stem. And at first it's because, well, is it because now you're closer to your stead? And he just figures it's better to be away from the traders than to keep it where it's at. So he gets back to Dekron and gets to the post and sees Colonel Wesleyan and basically says, here, resignation. And there's Colonel Wesleyan and Major Imalt in this study, and they both pull pistols on Alucius. Now, Alucius at this point, he doesn't have a gun. He's wearing his night, the night shift, the nightshade armor, that they get from the Black Sheep, the Night Sheep, which basically serves as like a bulletproof vest, but it still leaves bruises and all that. And once Alucius gets out of the way, then his 4 guys that are in the doorway open fire and kill both Wesleyan and Imalt. So now Alucius is really thinking there's something more going on here. And he talks to the other officers, and they say, well, he has this big house on the hill over there. So, and it cost him like at least 50 golds. Well, that's not even a year's pay, even for a colonel in the Northern Guard. So right there, Alucius knows, okay, there's something going on. So they've gone through some of the ledgers already, and they see there's discrepancies. And they know that Wesleyan's been skimming from the till, and others have too. So they go to the house, and the son is reluctant to let him in. But they go in anyway, and they search, because he's like, your father committed theft. And his son, Wesleyan's son, is just like, prove it. And he's like, well, I intend to here. So they search the whole upstairs of the house, leaving the cellar for last. And then he finds this upstairs in the bedroom. He finds this little chest, and he uses his talent to act like he's got the key to unlock it. And there's like, I think 50 golds in there. Not substantial, but again, he doesn't make that much. So where is that coming from? Goes to the cellar, finds a chest that has like over 350 golds in it, or two chests that total up to 350 golds, along with a whole bunch of rifles and scabbards and sabers and barrels of food and wine that he's been taking, basically ordering and then not even giving to the Northern Guard. He's been putting it in the cellar. Um, so with that, now he's got to figure out, okay, I got to start letting some people go. Basically, we have a whole bunch of incompetent officers. I need to let them go, and then I need to promote good ones and start building this up. And as he's doing that, Wendra gets taken by a Sor and some Sanders. And Aleutius feels this on his wristband. And he just says, I got to go. You know, her uncle basically, her nephew comes to see Aleutius and just like she's disappeared. He has a message from Royals and nobody knows what happened. There's no prints, there's nothing. So he goes, he just leaves the command post and goes to the stead. And then he figures, okay, there's the Ifrits are behind this. They have to be, right? So he goes after Helenat first, who is one of the big traitors. Helenat basically goes to try to shoot him, and Aleutius unties his life threads, and Helenat dies. Then he goes to see the next big guy up, and it's with him that is where he thinks, okay, he's got to have Wendra, has to. But he gets to the house and he's watching from outside. And he comes out and there's like basically 4 people with him. But there's no sign of Wendra. So Aleutius decides to follow because it's all he can really do at this point. And he follows him to this house where there's a table. And with that table, Terralt, they're basically assaulting the crap out of Aleutius. And Aleutius drops through the table. And he's basically going through location after location after location. He finds like a map. And somehow he finds his way to the Lost City, where he was before, and finds that Wendra and Alendra, his daughter, is there. That's the first time he gets to see her, is basically this way. And he's pretty battered. So he basically eats and rests, and they both are getting taught through the Sorer, this is what you guys need to do. And you need to look for the dual scepters. They need to be united with the master scepter. That is the only way to stop these guys and blow out the tables, and just the whole network will be gone. So pretty much the last, I would say, 150 to 200 pages is husband and wife kicking ass on the Ifrits. And I think you know how the story ends. Obviously they put the 3 scepters together. The Ifrits are gone from Chorus, and the tables are all no longer working, so you can't use them anymore. And he goes to see the Lord Protector afterwards, tells him that, and he's like, oh, by the way, I'm resigning because I want to go back to being a herder. The Lord Protector isn't happy about this, but doesn't really have a choice. And his consort, even reminds him, you you're acting like a child. You have to let him go. He's got that much power. He bailed you out of all this stuff, and then he came. He could have taken your throne. Instead, he left. He's going home. Let him be, and be grateful. So he is. And the story ends basically with them living on the stead. Now, sad part is that the Sorer dies. The Sorers are all gone. All the life force is basically taken away. The Ifrits take enough of it away to where the Sorers cannot control. But they are the children of the Sorers, Lucius and Wendra and Elendra. So they will carry on. And he gives his resignation, makes Farron, who is basically his sidekick, deadpan comic kind of guy. He becomes the new colonel, and he just says, if you need anything, just call me. Just let me know. Well, not call me like on the phone, but just let me know, and I will help how I can. And everything turns out well here. Now, this trilogy probably should have been read in the middle. I'll be starting doing books 4, 5, and 6, which is probably what should have been 1, 2, 3. It's the precursors to this, but it's going to be a little bit out of order. But I thought it was good. I mean, at times it was a little slower than the other two, but it still all got tied together nicely, but not too quick at the end. And I thought that was good. So this one doesn't quite get 5. I'm gonna give it 4.8. Close enough, right? So overall, though, I'm giving the whole series probably like a 4.99. It's like very, very short of 5. It was good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the second trilogy of this series holds. I think it'll be good. Um, I mean, everything by this guy so far that I've read is good. By L.E. Modesitt Jr. It's just really, really good writer. Um, so yeah, 4.8 I would give. So again, with that, please like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you know when new videos come on out. Also, leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you guys, and spread the word. It's free for you, and it helps me out, and I appreciate it. So until next time, as always, keep YouTube literate, and God bless.